Welcome along to Obsession Engineering. That particularly big lump behind me is a Triumph Tiger Explorer 1200 spoked wheel version. And that was my winter bike. But, as you can tell, it's not winter anymore, so I don't need to keep it. But before I sell it, I probably ought to tell you what's good about it, what's amazing about it, and some of its interesting features. Bearing in mind, I'm not going to be at all biased by the fact I need to sell it. Not at all. Nope. So if you missed the original video where I bought the Triumph, you can go back into the back catalogue and you can catch up with it. And doing that instead of me explaining everything that's happened not only makes this video a little bit quicker, also it bumps up my views, and that's always a good thing. The important things to know is that was not a lot of money. I wanted something to commute on in winter, and this was perfect. Shaft drive, heated grips, good wind protection, knobbly tyres, perfect. I will admit in places it has a little patina of use because it's not been particularly well looked after, but we'll skirt over that because it's lovely. Look how nice the paint is. Beautiful, yes. Right, enough of the negatives. Let's talk about the wonderful stuff. And I'm going to do that by putting my helmet on. So riding the bike slowly through town unveils an interesting trait that Triumph engineered in, and it's all to do with the throttle. So, from close, see, that doesn't seem too bad, does it? But there's a lot of free play in it. Just watch out for that big car. So, from steady throttle to steady throttle is not too bad. However, if you go closed throttle to open, look how much free play there is. Just a ridiculous amount of travel before anything happens. And when you're riding through town, changing gears, shutting and opening the throttle, that's a real treat. So I'd like to thank Triumph for putting that in, because it trains your throttle hand up. That's what that does, to expect the unexpected. So you shut the throttle, loads of nice open free play, then and then there we go, look. See, it keeps you awake, keeps the neck joints flexible by jarring them a little bit. So thank you, Triumph. I thoroughly appreciate that engineering you did for me. As we get out of town, of course, we can talk about the engine, and the engine is actually really a peach of a thing. 1200cc, I think it might actually be 1215 this one, and 3 cylinders, so it's got a reasonable noise to it. It's not excessively noisy, but what's really nice about this is from basically tick over like 1500, 2000 RPM, you can go, and there's this wave of torque that, you know, pushes you towards the speed limit. I suspect if I wasn't careful, I could easily get this bike well into 3 figures. But of course I wouldn't do that because I'm very sensible, and obviously whoever's going to buy this off me will want to know that it's been very carefully ridden at all times. Definitely. But the engine is actually lovely. Once the throttle's connected, lovely and smooth, loads of torque, decent noise. Not exactly a top-end rush or anything, it's very linear. So it stops you getting too excited by having a big rush at the top, but it is very effective at covering distance. And frankly, it's quite good at not using much fuel either. I've generally been getting 46, 47 miles to the gallon between fill-ups, 170, 180 miles really, which I think is absolutely fine. It's a good chunk of mileage, it's not using much fuel. Very good, Triumph. But I mean, actually very good. I'd also like to thank Triumph for the workout my foot is getting changing gear. So, if I use the clutch and I'm very steady, it's lovely and smooth. If I'm trying to ride a little bit more sportily and I want to change gear a little bit quicker, then I get a lovely good workout from the gear lever, because if you imagine kicking rocks into a skip, you will get the sort of idea that trying to do a fast clutchless gear change on this Triumph is all about. And occasionally it does that just to clear the soot out the exhaust. Occasionally it will just throw an extra neutral in to keep you on your ball. And I mean, who doesn't want that feature? It really does make the ride more exciting, definitely. And if I ever decide to actually kick rocks into a skip, I'll know exactly what sensation to expect from the gear lever, from the rocks. The next great feature of the Triumph is cruise control. Look, throttle hand, awesome. So, cruise control, excellent. I quite like cruise control. I don't actually use it very often, but for instances like this, it is perfect. You can ride along, don't have to hold on, brilliant. The only thing they have put in a safety feature is if you shut the throttle, like push it shut, it turns the cruise control off. Very sensible. I will admit though, that might have made the throttle connection a little bit loose, I think is a term, and the amount I use the cruise control, that one feature where you can just slam the throttle shut, I need about really once every 500 mile, whereas not having the slack in the throttle would make the ride better every single time I rode it. But they've done that for a reason, and I thank you, Triumph. That is an excellent feature. Definitely a positive there. What I also like about the cruise control is there is a button down here, so you can turn the cruise control on or off. But if you have it turned on all the time, well, it doesn't actually do anything until you set the cruise control. So you can just leave the button turned on and only use the cruise control when you want to. So that's basically off when the button's turned on. So in fact the button is well, it's just something to play with really. It doesn't actually do anything. You just never ever turn it off. So yeah, you've basically got a free button. Thank you, Triumph. So riding position, actually excellent. The seat's got plenty of padding in it. It's height adjustable, so I've got it in the higher position because I've got long legs. And the best thing about it is the tank's actually really sculpted out, so you're not sort of really caught up in the tank. You're not like legs splayed apart or anything. It's really comfortable. You could spend hours and hours and hours every day sat in this seat. So Triumph claim that this bike is 260 kilograms, which is a lot. So in effect you're getting more bike for your money, and there are other advantages to having a bike that weighs that much. If I'm pushing it around at home or in a petrol station or at the workshop or wherever, I'm getting an actual workout. That's right, it's really helping me to form those muscle groups up, but it's saving me membership at the gym. So that is brilliant. When you're riding it, combined with a really actually quite good suspension, it just sort of floats over the bumps. It just sort of rattles across all the bumps and the potholes. The ride quality is excellent. The thing I didn't expect was the bike to actually turn properly though. I thought the weight would really bother it while you're flicking it about, but combined with the fact that the suspension's really quite good, this bike's really flickable. What Triumph have done, and they've been really quite clever with this, is they've got the weight quite high up, and realistically they probably couldn't get rid of that much of the weight while they were sort of developing the bike. The engine is heavy, the steel's all chassis, the chassis is all steel even, so the bike's heavy and it carries its weight quite high. But the advantage to that is when you give it a steering input, give it a little nudge on the bars like that, the mass starts moving quite easily, and that means that it gets around corners, as in it turns, really easily. The other week I actually rode a brand new version of the same bike, the new 1200 Explorer, and this one steers better. Honestly, blown away. Down the majority of roads, over bumps, if you want a bike that actually turns, this is surprisingly good. Another feature that I really like, which is affected by the weight, is the brakes, because Triumph didn't actually spec a particularly brilliant brake setup on this, and obviously with the bike carrying that weight, it means when you want to stop relatively quickly, check behind me, look at this, and you get a really good hand workout. My hand, my forearms, they get a really good workout every time I want to stop. And because I like to ride in a sporty style, I like to slow down quite regularly, and I use my front brake, and yeah, there's loads of strength in that wrist now, and it's definitely from braking hard, definitely. Because the forks are quite supple as well, when you do brake hard, the bike pivots quite a lot forward, which is quite exciting because it makes you feel like you're stopping really fast, even if you're not. So having recently ridden the brand new version of this bike, what Triumph have done with the new version is they've taken a lot of weight out of it, which I suppose some people might consider a good thing. They've put much bigger brakes on it with much better calipers, so you don't get the hand work out every time you want to slow down, which is obviously a negative. The throttle now, especially in the lower gears, when you open it, it actually connects to the engine, which takes away that fun factor of guessing when's that big engine going to come to life. So what they've done with the new bike is they've gone through the old bike and they've kind of taken all the fun out of it. They've removed some of that character, as the Italians would call it. And yeah, and I'm sure some people will think it's better than the old one, but I think that's subjective. So two things the new bike has actually lost compared to this one. It's lost that instant turning that you get from this bike. I'm not sure whether it's a chassis geometry thing or just the fact they've moved the weight around, and it's made it feel like the tyres are a little bit flat in it. And the other thing it's lost is this. The party trick, I suppose, for this bike is once the throttle's open towards a corner exit, you slow it down, you turn it in, you slow it down, you turn it in, and you gas it, and that big triple engine just picks up its skirt and goes. And it has got some proper go in it. And what I realised with the new bike was there's so much emissions control on it that it actually feels a little bit flat through the middle. I'm sure on the spec sheet it's got more power and it's certainly got to move less weight, but it didn't feel as connected, it didn't feel as sort of as gutsy through the middle as this one did. So yes, the new one might be a little bit better to some people, but I would argue that this one has certainly still got a few little tricks up its sleeve that the new one hasn't. And with tonight's journey complete, very nearly so is my time with the Triumph, because it is going up for sale soon. What I've realised is this is an incredibly capable motorcycle. As a winter bike, it has been absolutely fantastic. Heated grips, hand guards, cruise control, comfy seat, decent weather protection, shaft drive, decent miles per gallon. I gave it a service when I first got it, and since then I've put a back tyre in it and I've changed some front wheel bearings, so it's cost very little to keep on the road. The insurance was very sensible. This has just been a very, very practical bike. This I would quite happily get on and do hundreds and hundreds of miles a day going somewhere. But it's not particularly exciting, which is why it's going. So the practicality level is very, very high, especially with my Chinese top box fitted. But I'm not generally a very practical person, and it's nights like this with the sun setting that I can live without a little bit of practicality for a little bit more excitement. And so the Triumph is going. And so if you'd like to own a big lump of metal, I mean it is a lot of metal for the money, then I'll probably put a link to the advert, and hopefully somebody will snap it up and do many more thousands of excellent miles on it, because it is an excellent motorbike. You should own it. You really should. And on that note, I'm going to go and park it up. Thank you for watching, and join me again next time for some more motorbike fun. By the time I got around to editing the video, I had already sold the bike. Having bought it cheap in winter and sold it in spring for sensible money, including all of the running costs and maintenance, I actually made profit on this bike, which is excellent, and the new owner hopefully is very happy with it and putting lots of miles on it, because it's actually not a bad bike.